Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namane Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pusharane Nirvisesa Sunyavari Paskachate Shatarane. Of my respectful obeisances unto His Divine Grace, Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, who is in a long line of disciplic succession known as the Brahma Madhva Gaudiya Sampradaya. And through this disciplic succession, we are gaining access to Sri Krishna and the beautiful Leela pastimes of the Lord in Goloka. So these Leela pastimes of Lord Krishna are so essential for humanity to know about, because when they are properly distributed by a pure devotee like Srila Prabhupada, they not only do they bring about happiness and joy in and of themselves, but they also naturally bring us to the Brahman stage of existence without separate endeavor. And on our Brahman stage, which is self-realization, we can truly enjoy these pastimes on a self-realized level. Interestingly, if you become acquainted with any other form of yoga or meditation, the goal is the Brahman stage in and of itself. Everyone speaks about this Brahman stage, the stage of self-realization, but nobody speaks about Krishna. Nobody knows about the transcendental pastimes of Krishna. No one understands that Krishna's pastimes are on the Brahman stage, on the Brahman level. They're free from material inebriety, material modes of nature. They have no tint or taint or any karmic gyan, nothing. They're purely conscious, pure part of the Brahman level of existence. But in all these different forms of yoga, no one knows about the Krishna aspect. They just try to focus on the Brahman aspect. And because of that, none of them are successful. Because without knowing what are the activities of Brahman, we can't keep our mind focused on Brahman or the stage of self-realization. The mind is not meant to simply focus on the self. The mind is meant to focus on the pastimes of God. So if you take Krishna away from self-realization, you're lost. You have nothing. You may be able to temporarily come to the stage of Brahman, but your mind will so quickly cover over that stage because you have nothing superior to focus on. You can't just focus on yourself all the time. Even if you think you've got rid of all your karma and you're a pure soul, you will again come back into the karmic situation if you don't have something superior to focus on. And that is the uniqueness of Krishna consciousness. Krishna does not have karma. Krishna is not an ordinary human being. Krishna does have 2 arms. He also has 4 arms, 6 arms, 8 arms, but he is not an ordinary being. Krishna is transcendental, and he is the reservoir of pleasure because he can perform Leela that we cannot. His Leela is the source of our pleasure, and our participation in his Leela for his benefit is really what Krishna consciousness is all about. It's Krishna-centric. So we, just by performing our bhakti yoga in Krishna consciousness, ascend to the Brahman platform, at which time we can engage purely in the Leela of Lord Krishna. Then Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, for those who are self-realized in my devotional service, they don't come back again to the material world because they no longer are performing karmic activities. If you try for the Brahman stage and you have excluded Krishna from your meditation and yoga and yoga performance, you will undoubtedly have to come back to the material plane because you have no superior engagement to do. You lack the knowledge of Krishna Lila, which can be easily had by chanting Hare Krishna, serving the Lord, Shravanam Kirtanam, Vishnu Smaranam, Pada Sevanam, Archanam Bandhanam, Dasya Sakyam, Atma Nivedanam. All of these 9 processes are laid out by Rupa Goswami in Nectar Devotion. And through the Krishna conscious movement, we are disseminating factual knowledge of Lord Krishna. We are the only ones who are doing it. Nobody else understands the correct relationship between Brahman and Para-Brahman. Nobody. It is a confidential piece of information. It is rarely known. When Krishna descended 5,000 years ago, he told Arjuna, this Bhagavad Gita that I'm going to speak to you today has been extant, meaning it has been gone from the human society. He said, Lord Krishna said, for 2 million years. 2 million years. Lord Krishna spoke the Bhagavad Gita originally to the sun god. He said, Vivishwan. And now he says he's speaking it again to Arjuna. So this, he says, is confidential information. The Lord explains that what I'm about to speak to you is confidential. It means it has to be spoken. You can't arrive at Krishna consciousness through mental speculation, juxtaposing your intelligence, trying to figure it out. You'll never figure out Krishna consciousness. It has to be spoken in the parampara system. It has to be brought down to you. There has to be a proper spiritual master and a proper disciple that hears this knowledge. So for one who is interested in God consciousness, who really is interested in becoming God conscious, this is the final chapter in one's spiritual development. This is the essential information that one must act on, because without it, the repetitive practice of just Brahman realization will lead one over and over and over again to the material world, sometimes going to the higher planets, sometimes even descending to the lower planets, because one ends up becoming very much engaged in karmic activity, bad activity. He loses his perspective, he falls down, again comes back, again practices. But without full knowledge, there's no way that one can escape the laws of material nature. No one can become mukti or liberated permanently until they engage in Krishna consciousness, until they find shelter in the Leela of the Lord, until one develops or is granted a spiritual body with which to serve the Lord in his spiritual pastimes. So that is the final stage, that is the final frontier, the Goloka planet, where the Lord Krishna resides with his eternal associates who are all liberated with pure spiritual bodies that have been awarded to them for their particular service to the Lord. So if you don't want to come back over and over and over and continually meet with frustration in the material world, then you must learn about the Lord's Leela. You must learn about Lord Krishna, how he is the center, how he is the center of all loving activity, and how we are his associates. We must strive to become an eternal associate of the Lord. That is the permanent situation whereby we can leave the material world. So in the beginning stages of bhakti, when we first begin, we're learning. We're in the learning stage. We're learning. We're taking all this information in through the Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, Chaitanya Charitamrita, other important literature. We're learning, and we're also practicing at the same time. So we may not be in the Brahman stage of existence, because that takes a lot of time of continual practice until the reactions of our karma subside or are transformed. At that stage, we can begin to experience a steady level of Brahman realization, which is never the ending point for us as devotees of Lord Krishna. That is truly the real beginning point. Because when we are in the Brahman stage, our intelligence is very clear, our mind is settled, our body is also settled, and we can really go deep into the practice of bhakti, which will then bring us to the level of pure Krishna consciousness. So the beginning, it is still better for us to begin our journey of Krishna consciousness at whatever stage we are in, than to try to become advanced in just Brahman level of meditation outside of Krishna consciousness. In other words, give up your non-performance of Krishna consciousness immediately. Take to the shelter of a pure devotee of Lord Krishna, like Srila Prabhupada, our Srila Prabhupada, and immediately invoke or immediately introduce Krishna consciousness as the sole means of self-realization into your life. And as soon as you do that, all of the different modalities, Jnana Yoga, Karma Yoga, Jnana Yoga, Hatha Yoga, Raj Yoga, all of the different yogas are served through the proper practice of bhakti. Now, there are persons who claim to be bhakti yogis, but they're not devotees of Lord Krishna. They're not Gaudiya Vaishnavas. They're not practicing under the shelter of A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. And as a result, their bhakti yoga is tinged, meaning their real goal of their bhakti yoga is still always the same. It's just Brahman realization, self-realization. None of these other yoga systems which speak about bhakti yoga are really practicing bhakti yoga correctly. All they're doing is using bhakti yoga to try to become self-realized. They always push Krishna to the side, always. They can't understand his actual situation. Therefore, they're met with defeat. It's the same thing. They just say, well, they just use the devotional aspect of bhakti but secretively they want to merge with God. They're not using bhakti to develop a relationship with Krishna. They don't see Krishna as being the center of everything and the center of his own lila. They always want to put themselves in the middle, my self-realization. The last stage of egoism. So unless one, and bhakti means two, achintya beta beta tattva. Bhakti yoga is inconceivably and simultaneously where we are one and different from Lord Krishna. Krishna has expanded himself as the jiva. We are the jiva. He's expanded himself into many, many, many jivas so that we may serve Krishna. We may serve him and have a relationship with him, one of love. That loving relationship is actually directed by, guided by the internal potency of the Lord, the Haladini Shakti. So we are meant to be serving the Lord through this internal potency. The external potency is the material world. Currently, we are divorced from Krishna, and we are serving in the material world our senses, dehe, of the body. So the body is, of course, temporary, and everyone is struggling to get free from the body, the bodily identification. So many groups, many yogis want to become Brahman realized to get free from the miseries of the body. Even Buddhists, Mayavadis, yogis, thinkers, rishis, jnanis, everyone is struggling to get free from the identification with the body. And they don't realize that just by chanting and engaging in Krishna's service, not trying to merge with the Lord, but worshiping the Lord. Bhakti means to do service to Krishna. Worshiping the Lord, one automatically, as part of his advancement, will get free from the bodily association. Brahman realization comes automatically in Krishna consciousness. It's never meant as a separate goal. That's a mistake. So anyone who's chanting Hare Krishna with the goal of merging into God, run clear of them. That is the half a cow philosophy. They are thinking that it's the full cow, but a half a cow can never give milk. You have to have the whole cow. You must include Krishna in yourself, in your practice of self-realization. You must include Krishna correctly. And that is why my spiritual master has gone through such great lengths to bring us Bhagavad Gita as it is, Srimad Bhagavatam, Chaitanya Charitamrita, Nectar of Devotion. All these books are essential because they explain or declare or show the position of God, which was unknown to us previously. This is such important information, like Chaitanya Charitamrita. When Lord Chaitanya, who was Krishna, came 500 years ago. So the Chaitanya Charitamrita gives us insight into the bhav and the prem of the Lord, things that we were not privy to and would never be privy to if it were not for this literature being brought to us and being handed down, just like the Srimad Bhagavatam. These books are essential to our self-realization. Someone who thinks, I don't really need to read, I just need to simply meditate, they fall into this monist category, where they think that they themselves just have to reach the state of Brahman, and that's all they need to do. And that is the half a cow that I was just mentioning. That is incorrect. Try to wipe that incorrect philosophy from your endeavor, because it will never bring you permanent happiness. It will actually bring you more and more frustration. How frustrating is it for you to sit in meditation or fast or take a drug or do something to try to get some feeling for this idea of Brahman realization, only to think maybe for a moment that you've gotten it and for it to go away? How frustrating is that? It's like an alcoholic takes a drink, feels great, and then it goes away. The feeling goes away, leaving you high and dry. And the same thing for yogis and meditators. They spend so much time in meditation, fasting, meditating, sometimes living in a cave, chanting different mantras to try to become self-realized. And if they get some insight, it's short-lived. How frustrating. Whereas for a devotee of Krishna, he's never frustrated, because every time he focuses on the Lord and the beauty of the Lord and the pastimes of the Lord, he is experiencing self-realization. He's never frustrated. He is experiencing freedom from the body. His mind, in just focusing on Krishna, it comes together in a unified sense, his intelligence. It's what's called Vyavasayatmika Buddhi in the Bhagavad Gita. And without going through these different yoga performances, his mind becomes cleared from all karma. And he can, with a Brahman intelligence, a Brahman mind, he can focus clearly on the Lord and his pastimes. And prior to becoming Brahman realized, the Hare Krishna devotee is engaging in the service of the Lord on a daily basis, his sadhana, and he is experiencing a freedom, a genuine freedom from suffering that becomes deeper and deeper and deeper. He doesn't want to deviate from the path. So he distances himself from sense gratification until that stage of Brahman realization comes, and then his practice of bhakti becomes second nature. Krishna gives us the assurance in the Bhagavad Gita that once achieving this platform of Brahman realization in Krishna consciousness, one will return home back to Godhead. One is assured by Krishna and never to return again to the material world, because the material world is based on actions for myself, where I think I'm the center, where I see myself as being the center, where I see my activities are meant for my pleasure, where I am trying to become happy on my own, whether I go to the heavenly planets and enjoy with celestial women, celestial men, if I'm a heavenly damsel, going into the beautiful gardens of Kanana, these beautiful places, living a long period of time in celestial environment, all for my pleasure. Or going to the hellish planets to serve out a sentence for being evil, where my karma has been such that I'm doing things which are hurting others. So I have to suffer and pay the price for that. My rotation in the material world is because I'm seeing myself as a sinner. And you can't get out of that egoism. The Buddhist tries to negate the ego. And sometimes you have these yogis who think just with their mind that they've overcome the ego. Another false illusion. Oh, I'm no longer the body. I don't see myself as I'm spirit. I don't recognize the body. I have mentally overcome the body. I am who I am. All of this is illusory thinking, because that person who says such, and he's not a devotee of Krishna, he again comes down to the bodily platform, or he's fully merged in the bodily platform, never really off the bodily platform. So you can't think yourself out of this illusion. And you can't meditate your way out of that illusion. The only way to get out of the illusion permanently is to surrender to Lord Krishna, to recognize he is the supreme personality of Godhead. And he does it so beautifully. The Lord gives us so many pastimes, loving pastimes, and shows us what it's like. Here I am, Krishna says, the beautiful, mischievous blue boy who is eternal, whose body is eternal, eternally youthful, charming, wonderful. Everything we can possibly imagine in a perfect person is found in Lord Krishna. And all he's saying is, surrender to me, meaning give up the sham of your own Leela. Stop trying to make yourself the center. Give up your endeavor for self-realization. Just be my devotee. Worship me. Offer incense, flowers, fruit, all of your endeavors surrender to me, Krishna says. Read about me, engage in my devotional service, because my activities are charming and they will charm you. Krishna says, whatever stage of life that we find ourselves, Krishna's blowing a flute, playing with the gopis, playing with the cows, serving the cows, being with his mother, whatever personality you are, whoever you may be, Krishna's pastimes are attractive. And they will eventually attract us away from any of our self-endeavors. So much so that up to the stage of liberation, I'm not even interested in liberation, because liberation without Krishna is guaranteed to be a fall down. Guaranteed. And it's a struggle to even get there. But like we said earlier, hearing the pastimes of the Lord automatically brings the devotee out of his head. We're no longer interested in anything for ourselves because none of my activities are to have any meaning. I'm simply an imitator. Each one of us is imitating God. That's the illusion. So we give up the imitation and we give it to the real center, who's Krishna. The Mayavadis, the Buddhists, everybody else who's not aware of Krishna cannot understand this thinking. Without introducing Krishna into someone's life, they cannot get out of the illusion. It doesn't make a difference if you're Jewish, Muslim, Hindu, Christian. It makes no difference. It's all the same. Many religions preach that you can attain heaven after you die if you're just a good person in this life. But in Krishna consciousness, this idea of heaven or spirituality comes while you're alive in this body. We never say you have to wait till you die. So those who say you have to wait till you die, it's because they don't understand, they don't have a taste now. They don't know how to experience God in the present life. So they tell their flock, when you die, post-dated check idea. And that's not God consciousness. Because they don't really know who God is. So they have to offer this idea of salvation after you die. But if you know who God is, you serve him now, you can get properly liberated and know where you're going after you die, before you die. So all the religions of the world lack this essential Krishna consciousness. In other words, everyone on the planet today is an impersonalist. Nobody knows about God except for the devotees of Krishna. And even among the devotees of Krishna, unless you are a Gaudiya Vaishnava, someone coming in the disciplic succession, hearing properly about Krishna, not a nonsense devotee, not someone who's making something up, someone who has accepted the shelter of a pure devotee of Krishna, serving the Guru properly, hearing from the Guru in succession, the knowledge that's coming down, the knowledge of Krishna. Who is Krishna coming from? The knowledge coming from Krishna himself, something that's not made up. Only such a person can achieve God consciousness. It's a beautiful science. For those who are sincere and honest, who are tired of struggling, who are fortunate to hear this knowledge, and who persist, not just 1 year, 2 year, few year, and then they go off. Someone who persists, they will be successful. They will truly attain the shelter of Lord Krishna. So the opportunity is there. Not everyone will take it. Does not mean it's not the proper vehicle for God consciousness. But as Prabhupada says many times, not everyone can afford a diamond, a real diamond. Many people look for the zirconium, the cheating diamond, the phony, not the real thing. The real thing is not cheap. But if you have it, you are eternally fortunate, even more than the demigods. You have achieved the highest of the high. You can liberate others with your potency and your power and your incisiveness and your arguments. Everything can be delivered by the mercy of the Lord to help others liberate them as well. And never to come back to this material world. We want to disassociate with anything that is outside of Krishna consciousness. If someone can disassociate with anything outside of Krishna consciousness, he is a saint. He is the true guru, the true teacher. And if you find such a person, take shelter of him, become his servant, hear from him, Tat Trinu, hear from such a personality. And they will give you the proper knowledge coming down through the disciplic succession of who Krishna is and who you are and what your eternal service is. All glories to Srila Prabhupada, who's liberating the entire world.